To me, level design basically is creating an interactive narrative within each level that the player can engage in and essentially play through.
Level design is taking the story and premise of the game and then translating it into a more tangible form that the player can experience.
Basically kind of figuring out how to lay out the gameplay to always have the carrot dangling in front of the player's head and kind of get them to the next part. What do you think?
I think that sounded amazing.
The script is pretty well written out, so you get a really good written description of what's going on, like what Kratos is doing, what's happening in the story. You just kind of go from there.
I get a lot of flack because I say that we put the fun in the game, and I think that's really what we do in a nutshell.
One of the greatest things about game design is that you're able to take an idea that's in your head and make someone go and experience that.
We have so many tools in this universe and so many tools as far as what the game is built off of that we can pretty much do what we want. We're limited by our imagination, and I think that's one of the most fantastic things about working on this project.
As a designer here at Sony, you can't just be good at one thing. It's really in our hands to do it all and do it well.
We often try to integrate the puzzles into the exploration of the level and with the combat. You're going to have a lot of games where all of a sudden you're in your fight mode, and once that's done, then you're in your puzzle mode, and it almost feels like you're playing two different games. One thing we try really hard to do here is to mesh those different kinds of game designs so we get a really more fluid and dynamic gameplay experience.
We essentially drive the vision of the level from the player's perspective and serving as the ambassador to them. So we need to protect their interests and make things easily understandable for them as they're playing through the level. Do you agree?
It's a constant push-pull as well with the designers and the artists, because the artist may want to put something that's visually more interesting in, but it could also impact the play space in a negative way.
I can't emphasize enough how important playtesting is to our process. If we didn't have it, the game would not be what it is. Because when the player takes the product home, we don't want them to be frustrated.
You learn so much just watching people play it. That's one of the most valuable things you could ever do, is just sit down, give the person the controller, and just watch them play, see what they do.
I think one of the strongest things that this team has actually is having, the game director come in and play it, have members from all the disciplines sitting down, and because everybody, chips in, hey, how are we going to animate this? Animators are sitting in. How are we going to build this? World builders are sitting in. Is this even possible? Coders are sitting in. That process makes everything just improve immensely. And I truly, truly mean that. I think a lot of people will say that, but here, it's extremely, extremely, extremely noticeable.
And this is some ideas that I had for a grapple section where basically Kratos would grapple onto a broken column, and that would cause it to fall over, and he would be rolling down the hill with it and climbing up. Kratos hits a grapple point, swings around this column, lands on the backside, which has it to tilt over. It starts rolling down a hill, and he has to scurry up it using his climb. He gets on top and then jumps off to land on a platform before the thing rolls off a cliff. So that's kind of just some of the stuff that we think. And when we talk about big moments, this is some of the stuff that we deal with. I have no set process. I'll go from paper to computer to design sheet and then back to paper. It's really kind of organic. I love this idea. There was another version where we had a Titan actually holding onto it and eating as it's rolling down, trying to bite you like it's a piece of corn. That unfortunately didn't make it into the game, but one of the things is just because I love an idea doesn't necessarily make it the best fit for the game, and being willing to understand that and walk away from certain things that don't necessarily fit, that's part of the job.
This is my grandpa's old man puzzle. It's one of these kind of puzzles you got to figure out how to kind of put it together, but this kind of gave me some inspiration for the Labyrinth. So the Labyrinth is this level where there's all these different cubes, and they're kind of strung up throughout the cave entrance. And they're all on these pulleys and ropes, and then as you go around the level, you kind of start slowly forming your own puzzle that you're going to then go into. We came up with this idea for Gaia coming up to this rotunda where, Zeus and Kratos are kind of having their last epic fight. And the player's thinking, it's, mano a mano, they're just going to be battling, and then Gaia kind of comes into the picture and then ends up actually physically ripping the whole building up and then looking at it, and then you guys start fighting inside of it. She comes up and then rips it off, and then she, comes up and crushes it and takes it apart. At the end, you guys are fighting inside of her, and you end up killing her, and then she kind of blows up and crumbles all over Mount Olympus. For me, it's always so amazing to be able to imagine this whole kind of crazy scenario, this whole world in your head, and then you're actually able to make it.
I've been working on the Aphrodite Chamber, which is where one of the infamous lovemaking mini-games will be taking place within the larger game. This is the preliminary room that I brought up in Maya. Roughly what's going to be happening is Kratos is going to be going through a hallway here where he's going to come to this room. There's going to be a bed in the corner with curtains drawn, and as soon as he casts them open, he's going to see Aphrodite with two of her very lovely servant girls who quickly run away. She's going to go into the bed for a little hanky-panky, and we see the servants are very happy right there with what's going on. After finishing his job, Aphrodite is kind enough to draw back this large curtain, which will expose the portal, which will lead to another section of the game. So that's generally an idea of how we mock up an event relatively quickly so that we can assess how the gameplay will be, and then we can forward that off to art so that they can make it pretty. And this is some of the things that concept art has done. This is the bed right here that you saw. It looks a little more fancy than the blocks that I've been using. Once that's done, I will implement them into the game and everything will mesh together perfectly.
Be gone, Kratos.